my fears.
But yeah, okay. So we're now live. So I guess, hello, welcome to the Slick Down congregation panel. And today we're going to have a discussion about dance music, community building, and organizing. And today we have three lovely panelists, which we'll get into. But starting us off will be Sola System engaging with the introduction of Slick Down. So yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sola System. I am one of three members of Slick Down. And in case you don't know who we are, but maybe you're familiar and you'd like to be reminded, Slick Down is a Black DJ collective focused on uplifting Black DJs and other marginalized voices in our current sonic landscape. Slick Down's intentions are rooted in decolonial Black feminisms and internationalist praxis with the hopes of building more sustainable and long-term access and resources for Black DJs, producers, and music lovers from all over. So yeah, we have done a lot of parties. We've done like a little production workshop session on our Discord. We hosted our first panel where we meet in January, which centered the experiences of Black femme DJs in New York City. And we also released our first compilation album in February that only featured work from Black producers in the New York, New Jersey area. So if you don't know, now you know. We're so happy to have you all here and to get into this amazing discussion with these three incredible people.
Yeah, thank you, Simi. Yeah, I'm Love Hire. I'm part of Slick Down, and I'm gonna intro the panel so we have a little bit of just like context and what we're about to get into. This panel discussion really came from like my love of like throwing parties in different cities and like going to different DIY spaces and just being a part of like the larger dance music community in like the entire world, like touching grass but being in real life. And I think one of the most important aspects of that is organizers that are Black, especially Black femme organizers, and the type of experiences and situations that occur while working in nightlife, and also the dreams and futurisms that happen when you're an organizer and you're trying to create something that is so marginalized. I guess that kind of wraps it up without being like the super real description, but I do want to read the like last part, which congregation as defined by its second definition is a gathering or collection of people, animals, or things. This gathering is in hopes of centralizing conversations that are happening across different scenes and giving voice to the possibilities of change and the ways all of us can learn from one another. So that's why we've chosen different panelists from different regions. And yeah, so now we're going to get into the introductions of each guest, and each guest will say their DJ name, pronouns, and where they live, and also the work they've done so far in nightlife and DJing. So whoever wants to go first can go first, or I can choose, whichever. So I guess I have to choose. How about DJ Etta? Let's go.
Hey, what up? Can you guys hear me okay? Hey, I am DJ Etta, also known as Crystal Minor. I have a couple other names too, but those are the two I'm using right now. I'm based in Detroit. I grew up somewhere between here or between Michigan and Ohio, and I've been in Detroit for about 5-6 years. She, her pronouns, and I describe myself as a DJ, a writer, a programmer, and embarrassingly enough, a thinker. And I work with a project called Blueprint, which is not quite a collective. I would call us more of a crew of Midwest-based DJs and producers. There is me, there's AK, there's Black Moonchild, and there's Yasmina from Minneapolis. And we do parties. We just started a label earlier this year, and we work on a podcast. The first episode aired earlier this year through Resident Advisor that kind of traces the lineage of Black women in Detroit techno. And I also do a project called Moods, which primarily exists as an online DJ mix series. And our prompt that we ask people when we commission our mixes is, what did your childhood sound like? What influenced you in music in general? So it's often enough like people who are doing techno, but they're making mixes that are more about the roots of where they come from. And then we also do a yearly party during movement. And I also work with Submerge, which is like a studio collective. It's a home of underground resistance. And I work with Exhibit 3000, which is the world's first techno museum located at Submerge here in Detroit. So I do tours, general knowledge work, some label assisting. And then my day job is I work for the Symphony Orchestra here in Detroit.
Amazing. Thank you, DJ Etta. How about 99980J?
Yeah, hello. My name is Adwa, or 999 Aj. I am a DJ, a creative director, event producer, herbalist. Yeah, just like a lover of things and art. And yeah, I created a collective called 999 Herd. Obviously, like I love nine, so I'm just throwing it on everything because I suck at naming things. But yeah, 99 Herd basically is a kind of like a collective where we do parties. We kind of just pick a different genre. We throw a party around it. We do art galleries. So I curated and installed my first gallery this year with like a bunch of Black artists, and it was really cool. And we also do like nature hikes as well, because nature is like my first love. So I think niggas need to be in nature and we need healing. And so I think it's fun to provide the club experience, but also provide walking and touching grass, because I think that's also important. And yeah, we started a radio this year, so we've been building that. Hopefully gonna turn it into a label. But yeah, I would say I just like creating spaces where people feel like they can just do whatever and be themselves. So I feel like we kind of get put into boxes of what Blackness should be. So I'm just trying to create a space where I'm like, Blackness can be whatever the fuck you want it to be. Like, just as long as you treat yourself, like have fun and have a good time. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you. And then last but not least, Archangel.
Hello, I'm Archangel. My pronouns are she and her. My projects that I work on are Body Hack, that happens in New York City. I'm the founder of Ice Cream Social, which is a party and collective based and founded in Richmond, Virginia, but has gone elsewhere. And Body Hack is also a collective of artists. It's a grassroots fundraising initiative, and it's also a monthly dance party. I've been with Body Hack for now about 2 and something years, and Ice Cream Social was founded maybe around 8 years ago by now. So I've had a lot of experience organizing parties, throwing things for fundraisers, or making intentional spaces for queer and trans, Black, and of color community. And I've had experiences from organizing something like this in a place like Virginia, which is very different than New York City when I'm working with Body Hack. So I feel like I've had a big range of working in different populations and environments, and a big range of organizing shows with different available budgets and sound situations. So from DIY to high club experiences, you know, the full spectrum. I myself am a DJ and a producer, and I've also toured around the States and done some international touring as well. I might look really tired, and that's because I am right now. I'm in Japan, so the time difference is crazy. So thank you, Slick Down, for being accommodating with that. Um, and then what else? I think a really big mission for me is to just make space for people like me, and then yeah, experience the same things that I do and make it try my best to make it accessible for people that aren't like me, you know, the people that have a different life situation or setup than me. I started curating and throwing parties because I was tired of being in an environment where I didn't see people that looked like me, or I didn't see people that could share my experiences, be able to play music at a party. And I was so tired of going to a party and being like, the music sucks. One of us should be on the aux cord right now. And I was like, we got to learn how to DJ. We got to put together a party, you know, we got to figure something out because we got to do the best with what we got, or whatever Mariah Carey said. So yeah. Um, yes, I think when it comes to fundraising, I fundraise everything from for myself and for individuals, and also nonprofits and other grassroots organizations as well, and also like community and public health based organizations. I think that's like my secondary interest when it comes to organizing things, is I really feel like it's important for Black trans people to have public healthcare, and for Black women to have accessible healthcare. And a lot of times while you're working in music, I think people can sort of have this idea of like, keep it about the music, or like music and club and dance music culture existing in this one bubble. But dance music, as it relates to Black people, has always been based in community, has always been based in healing, has always been based in making space that wasn't necessarily always like legal or accepted or funded by other public organizations that would fund something like white dance spaces and things like that. So that's a little about me.
Thank you. That's amazing and great. But now we're going to get into some real questions, real conversations, see your conversations. So Simi's going to start us off with the first question.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you all so much for your intros. So we're getting right into it. I just want to know, what lessons have you learned so far by throwing your own events in your city? We're just getting right to it. And we're going to start with 999 Aj.
Yeah, I would say some lessons I've learned are, it's a lot of freaking work. And it's a lot of, I think, especially in Toronto, where we don't have a lot of access to a lot of spaces that aren't like super expensive. And I think because everyone in Toronto is from somewhere else, the kind of like collective idea of Blackness is like a little sporadic here. Like I just call it like we have like diaspora wars in one place. You know, like the Caribbeans want to talk to the Africans want to talk, like it's chaos. And when I first started, I really wanted to create a space for Black people, because every party I went to, it was just like where the niggas at? Where the Black people? Where the Black people? You know, outside of like the Afrobeat, I'm a piano sphere. So I really learned that there are a bunch of like, you know, Black kids out here that are into, you know, the music the parties that I create, but everyone's just kind of like scattered. So it's almost like, I call it collecting like my Pokemon, because I'm like, everyone's just like all around. I'm like, oh my God, I found another Black DJ. Oh my God, I found another Black queer DJ. So it's just been like slowly building this community, and like, it's really beautiful. And it's really like heartwarming, because I get to see people find community and then start their own collective. So I call it like an ecosystem, you know, like when someone gets inspired, then they pass it on. And then you kind of build this like world where, you know, you can have a little pocket of freedom in this like kind of chaotic globe. So yeah, it's been a really like big healing experience for me too, because I didn't grow up around like a Black community that understood me. Like I always felt like I was weird and like messed up and all that stuff. So yeah, it's been really healing. It's been really rewarding, but also like, goddamn, like dealing with these like promoters and venues. It's just like, Lord, guide me. But yeah, it's been a beautiful experience, but hard, but beautiful. And I think there's a reason that I'm meant to be doing this. And I see that every time something comes together. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. DJ, Etta, Archangel, who wants to go next?
What's that meme? It's like you think you just fell out of a coconut tree. I think when I started doing this work, I'm just like, this doesn't exist. I have to make it like rah, rah, rah. And then I realized that there have been so many other people who've paved the path for me that like, if I can go back in time, I would start with just kind of building those connections first, because I think that, especially here in Detroit, it's, of course, it's like the source of so much within the music world, techno music, Motown, funk, like it's the main export of Detroit is Black music. But coming in and kind of really wanting to create spaces for Black women and queer and trans and PLC and marginalized DJs, and not seeing it here, I think that there were deeper questions that should have been asked, in which I've since kind of like gotten more context around. But definitely looking to elders as a guiding point has been really, really important for me. I think, like I said, Detroit specifically, I mean, it wasn't until this year I did an interview with a DJ here, DJ Sin, where she talked about how the AIDS epidemic had knocked out so many gay DJs in the 90s in Detroit. And I'm like, oh, that's the big gap between why this music started off as like kind of a place for queer and trans dancers and DJs, and why it's kind of shifted to more of a straight male dominated field. And I'm like, that's the gap, right? Which is then leading me to be in conversation with people who experienced music in the 90s and in the 80s and kind of what they learned from there. So that's kind of the big one, is you're not the first one to attempt to do what you're doing. But the stories of the people who've come before you have not been platformed. So it's just really go dig through whatever community or whatever city you're in to try to connect that dot. And then you'll save yourself so much trouble and really find some friends and guidance along the way.
The coconut tree is always relevant, like always. Yeah. Thank you. Archangel?
I just want to say both of you had some excellent things to say, and that was really golden because I can relate in my own ways from like the community that I come from. Especially when you're talking about the AIDS pandemic and like how that affected so many Black, queer, trans, women's faces, like everything. And I just feel like it's such a huge gap that's not even really talked about when it comes to like queer folks in our scene and just everything that they've had to endure. The intersection of Blackness and queerness, just around the States and honestly, even outside of the country. So how do I make sure my little messages don't go on? Give me 1 second. I'm like, how do I mute this? I'm new at like Max. Okay, I think I'm up. So basically what I had to say is when I'm thinking about lessons that I've learned just in DIY and nightlife and organizing. I have three that just jump out. The first one is that things change, and that is a really big thing to accept and not run away from, and honestly, not be scared of, even though it's scary. I've been organizing for maybe around 7 years now, and that's like doing political action stuff or whatever, other stuff that I can't really talk about. Also, just organizing shows and DJing myself. Combination of all those things, maybe around like 7 years or something at this point. And just so many things about myself and about my life and about the situations that I'm in are different than when I started. And it's just like you really have to know the angles that you're approaching doing nightlife or even working in nightlife. Throwing your own events or even being an artist yourself is just realizing when things are changing, how they're changing, and accepting and growing and healing with how that's all affecting you at the same time. I've just seen so many prominent figures of nightlife in my life just go through really terrible experiences and hard times. And a lot of times they've told me, like, I should have known when it was time to stop this iteration of a collaboration with this group, or stop this my own personal music project and move on to a different one, or even moving cities, or I don't know, like deciding to leave residencies or join new ones. I just feel like it's really important to understand that the people that you'll work with, the way that you work with yourself, and the spaces you find yourself in can all change in a matter of a year, let alone 5 years, and then 10 years, and then 20 years, you know? So I think that's very important. Also, my second thing that I've learned is appreciate the moment, because what we're doing is spectacular. What Black femme, what Black women, what Black trans people, queer people are doing is really iconic. And I'm just like, sometimes I talk about my life with other people and I don't even think they can like conceptualize like the kind of life that we live, the kind of life that I live, the spaces that I occupy, how we come together and just like have the most amazing time that feels iconic, historic, cinematic, and it's just like another normal weekend. You know what I mean? So I'm just always like, wow, I just feel like even when I first started, right? And I was like, being in rooms that were amazing, you know, like basements or like somebody's kitchen or something. And then there's a DJ set where it's going crazy. Everybody's having a good time, but maybe the room isn't as full as clubs that I found myself going and holding residencies at later in Richmond, Virginia, and then in Philadelphia, and then in New York. There was always a part of me that's like, wow, I want more. I want bigger crowds, like a better sound system. I want it to be like more people to be able to get in here so I can give this experience to more people of my marginalized communities. And then now I'm just like, wow, I honestly wish I was like more grateful and understanding and excited about those times, because those beginning times were what laid the foundation for what I do now and so many of the other people in my life. So yeah, I just am always like, appreciate the moment, really appreciate it, because there's so many amazing things happening in our scenes around the world when it comes to Black women, when it comes to Black queer people, when it comes to Black people of marginalized genders and sexualities. And the final thing is capture the moment. And not everything is allowed to be captured and not everything should be captured. And people need to be really selective about what they share with the whole population of the world versus private networks and community spaces. But there have just been so many magical moments in my life that literally feel like religious experiences that everybody was so caught up in the moment that no one captured. And it's crazy. And you talk about it and people are like, nah, I can't even believe that. Or they can't even like understand it. And maybe these were situations where it was totally okay to get a video or snap pictures and it wouldn't have disrespected the space. And it's just like, I want more people to understand what we're doing is history in the present. It's history in the making. It's pave making for future generations of people like us. It's so important to take what you do seriously. And even if you don't think of what you're doing is big or making a huge mark in the world of dance music as we know it, it really is. And people in different places in the world would gag if they understood what you and your peers were doing. So I'm always like, when it's safe, when it's appropriate, capture that moment.
Yeah, that's beautiful, especially just from the conversations and like hearing about the histories of different scenes, and especially from Detroit, and seeing the gap, and then also realizing that Toronto has like these other pockets, and then now hearing what you said in terms of capturing the moment and how community is religious and how like that all works, and kind of leads to like the next question, which kind of like goes into identity and sound culture. And we understand that in DJ and nightlife, especially now, does not sit outside of the political sphere. It's, I think, very political in a way. Its political ties are similar to any creative field in a capitalist society, providing ideas and critique that push against the mainstream. Nightlife and underground culture have especially been commodified, whitewashed, historically and now, and even in these contemporary times, from year-round festivals, compilations decontextualizing music from Black origins, and also resources only provided to mainly white or definitely like non-Black DJs and producers. In what ways do you subvert some of these voyeuristic and oftentimes like anti-Black misogynoir structures and the way you like set intentions in the events that you do? And how do you think about some of these like larger kind of like, I don't know, evil things that kind of like exist on the outside? But also it does, I feel like this conversation too, like this question doesn't have to be like a one person like we can all kind of also talk about it too, if that makes it easier too. Or if you need more clarification, you can ask me too. But yeah.
For clarity, you're asking how do we counteract kind of these more, okay, gotcha. I think that, okay, did anyone else feel like 3 or 4 years ago, there was like a lot of work and lip service given to building up marginalized DJs, and now we're in the after part, right, where things are just like, all right, that's done. I think the biggest lesson I got from that was that power is really not going to concede anything. Like, it's not about representation. It's not about calling something X, Y, or Z and then kind of hoping that it'll change things. I think what instead that Blueprint has done, of course, while we like center, we're all Black women, I think 3 of us are queer, who are working on this project together. And the way that we program is really centered around like, first and foremost, like good music, right? That's like the blanket thing of it all. But then kind of into that, we obviously like kind of like center more artists from the margins. We don't explicitly kind of call our party any one thing in terms of like the identity that we're uplifting. And I think that is because we want people to come into the space with an open idea of what it could be. And I think that's more of like a stealth strategy to normalize what it is that we do and not make it so much the exception. I struggle a lot, right? Because I think what techno means to me, what music means to me is a freedom. And I think within that freedom, ideally, there would be no labels, there would be no genre, there would be no boxes. And I think that sometimes what the world tries to do to Black women, to Black femmes, it's they put you into this box and they put you into this identifiable thing, and they just, it's almost worse than being ignored, is to be seen as this one-dimensional artist or programmer. And I think the steps that I take, that Blueprint takes, that runs off into moods, is to just create with those most marginalized at the center, and then just normalize what it is that we're doing. And I think that's kind of the best that we can do. I think when I started off, I wanted to change the world. Now I just want to help my friends. And I think that's maybe kind of all I can do in terms of radicalness. It's all I got left in me.
Yeah, anyone feel free to jump in. Thank you so much, DJ Etta.
You was real for that, DJ Etta. Can I get the question one more time to make sure I answer this right? Because I was thinking.
Nah, it's okay. I'm gonna like rephrase it in a way so it's a little bit less clunkier. Essentially, just thinking about like the ways we counteract these larger systems of like anti-blackness and misogynoir and DJing and nightlife, especially in like voyeurism, like thinking about like how representation works within this way of kind of climbing the ladder, and like thinking about the ways that these structures didn't really provide a lot of access towards like actual Black producers or DJs. So in the way that you work, how do you like counteract some of these things that show up in like the more systematic, like mainstream, like system of like nightlife?
Okay, that's an excellent question because one, I have a ton of thoughts, but I'm gonna try to make sure I condense it. I have this conversation a lot, slash, I know it's debated on Twitter, but it's like dance music inherently revolutionary or not? And it's just like this idea of like, well, yes, well, no, well, sort of, kinda, or whatever Tokyo Tony said. But I'm just saying that I also struggled a lot with that question because it's like, at least where I'm from, pioneers of dance music, pioneers of hip hop, and DJs that were cis straight men were often not revolutionary. They were maybe anti that and spread that rhetoric around. And thankfully, a lot of these people did learn and are not the same as they were a decade ago. But just coming from that background where I was seeing people like they paved the way or they're the ones doing it in this city up and down the East Coast, not even just Virginia, okay? So that was a really big experience that I had. But to me, I was like, why does it still feel revolutionary to me and what my friends do? What's different than that mainstream? What's different than the people actually afforded the privilege to get this coverage, to get all of this exposure and access to the cis heteronormative man or non-Black spaces in the world? Because none of us all move the same, and there's like people that are afforded, I think, this literal actual different world. So I was like, what makes my world and my friend's world different than that world? And then what do we do when those worlds cross over? And how do we still keep our ethos? How do we still keep our mission? And how do we still keep our audience that we want to prioritize and that we want to focus on? And a lot of that was just looking at my own situation and accepting where I'm at, what I can do and didn't want to do, and like what I'm not trying to organize to fight against or with. And for me personally, that was understanding that like, oh, I'm a Black woman and I'm trans and I'm queer. So it's just the idea of me navigating the world like some of these other DJs that I'm peers with is not going to make sense because like that is not my lived experience. Every single day, I'm existing in a different world than like a lot of these people, you know, a lot of these people that are apparently the ones that paved our way, apparently the ones that like started everything, apparently the people that we should be giving our flowers to, right? And yeah, after accepting the fact that I lived in a different world, it's just like, oh, there are different rules for us. There's different things for us. There's different things that we don't care about. So maybe we shouldn't be like so pressed on. And I think through my experience in music, I face a lot of misogyny in the way of keep it about the music. Like y'all are doing too much. Like females and blah blah blah. Like, you know, like I'm just like, that's just so like messed up.
Because it's never been just about the music. That's
It's
the biggest
never.
lie. That's the biggest lie.
Literally lie, like so bad. And I'm like, for what? So a lot of that, which is accepting that like, oh my gosh, this is so much more about the music. And that's why I'm doing this, because it is more about the music. And that is a part of the art. And that is part of the culture. So when it comes to keeping the audience that I wanted to, especially as Ice Cream Social grew and as Body Hack has grown, it's just like, I was always big on, I always want more people to tune into the live streams that we do. I want more people to have access to the in-person events that we do. So I want people to know about it. And I'm always like pro like propaganda for my target communities, being like, I want you to come, I want you to have a good time, you belong here, while not doing a thing where I'm like, everybody everywhere come. I want to give the idea of everybody will be accepted for sure. We're not going to kick you out because like you're not these certain identities, unless it's an all black space, unless it's all like non-cis man space or like non-trans space. And still sometimes I think that can get a little messy. I'm not even gonna lie. But yeah, unless it's a space that's like for certain people of certain experiences, my goal has never been to like bar it from other people, but I am always trying to prioritize and make my target audiences feel the most comfortable. And that is a very intentional thing to do because, you know, we're in Juneteenth, right? There's so many Juneteenth parties that are like maybe even organized by Black people and book Black people. But when you get there, you're like, this is a Juneteenth party. Like, what's up? Because y'all are a little comfortable. Your ancestors are why Juneteenth was a thing. Like, why are you so comfortable right now? Like, come on, like, you know what I'm saying? So it's this idea of like, how do I do that? I create a culture. I was like, in Richmond, I was like, no, the culture is all Black people to the front, niggas to the front all the time. And we shouldn't even have to say that in the mic. People know. And if somebody's new there and like acting a little bit of a mess, somebody will like politely remind them like, hey, this is a situation where all Black people at the front right now, like you're taking up a little space. You want to hang back a little bit. And 99% of the time it will work out well. And then it's just finding venues that will support you, finding venues that will believe you and not do this whole, oh, you told somebody they had to go back. We can't be doing that. No, you need a venue that will stand behind you, even if they're people that they're owned by and the people that they're staffed by might not be your community or your target community. People that will stand by you and stand behind you and stand by the message that you're trying to put out are really big deals when it comes to keeping what you do for the people that you want. And in that, I think it can be revolutionary. I have like a hard time being like any one thing is revolutionary just because of how my ideas about what revolution is or isn't has changed over the years. And now as we enter the new phase of finding out how the United States is evil, I have also been like trying to consider like, what is my new definition of like revolutionary or making a difference or making an impact, right? But the biggest thing is just like making sure that the people I built this for are feeling comfortable, know that they're prioritized, know that they're invited, doing it in a way where I advertise that to where it's not going to bring a bunch of unwanted attention from places that I don't want. I don't want to like move backwards. I want to move forward into creating a culture where people feel safe to be themselves, where people feel like they can be the prioritized population for the night in a scene and industry that's not always doing that, and paying people and sustaining people so that they're able to do this as their not only passion but way to sustain themselves, and always making sure that I can make a space where it's like, okay, even if I'm not working with the most money, I can book people, I can help people out. If I see people, talented Black people struggling, like mentioning that on social media, it's like, okay, who am I talking to? Like, even if it's a little like, I don't know, one word blurb to somebody over DMs, like, oh, did you know so-and-so, they're a really good DJ, saw them on the lot, or like saw them at Bossa, or blah, blah, blah. Just trying to like get work on people's plate as much as possible and realizing that it's like, it's a wave of us doing that. It's a wave of us taking care of each other in this industry, teaching each other things. Also, Black femme gossip saves lives, literally saves lives, and saves people years of therapy, just saying. So things like that, like helping each other out, mutual aid, and protecting one another, those are revolutionary to me because we exist in states that want to destroy us. So coming together and making sure that we continue a legacy and future of people coming together in these ways feel important to me and feel more political than voting ever could. Sorry.
I mean, thank you so much. And like the body hack propaganda is like the strongest propaganda I've seen in my lifetime. And I am pulled in. So thank you so much. Yes. 999 Arch, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I love everything everyone said so far. It's super inspiring and like really nice to hear because I think living in Toronto, we just pull from like all the different cities and like countries around the world. So like American music is always like this like big influence here that people want to know like this and that, but it's almost like there's like a wall. Like we're only like consuming it from like the internet or from Spotify or like whatever it is. And I think before I got into the dance music scene, I was mostly like organizing with like grassroots organizations. So I was like very like on the ground with like what was actually going on within the Black community over like the facade of like, I think everyone thinks Canada is this like peaceful, happy place. The government is like an angel and da, 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 da. But it's like, no, like everything, there's a lot of systematic racism. There's a lot of Black people, Black femmes that are struggling daily and daily and daily. And I feel like when I got into the music scene, I kind of saw similar patterns and where I never believed in like any institutions. I never thought that they would help me out because they haven't. So I don't have that trust. But I think in Canada, people have a lot of trust in the institutions here. So there's less of a motivation to dismantle them. And I think as I started doing parties, I was like, okay, like I want to work this venue, but like, how do they treat Black people? Like, am I going to bring a Black crowd and they're going to have 10 security guards there because the crowd is Black? It's like, that's not a safe place. Like, that's not a place where my people can feel comfortable to let loose, to be free, because it's almost like a space that's policed. So I believe that just us existing in our forms within these spaces is like an act of resistance. And I kind of feel this responsibility to create a space where I'm aware of all the things that are at play that kind of prevent that freeness from happening. And a lot of it is like subtle, a lot of it is subconscious racism, a lot of it is passive. And every time I throw an event, I learn something new. I learn a new way that racism can like exist, you know? And I think Canadian racism is very passive and it's very like subtle too. So it's kind of like gets in your head a little bit and you kind of internalize that racism and almost like, I know when I was dealing with it, I felt like, oh, like, why am I like almost policing myself from doing this? Like, where did that come from? But I realized I'm just like absorbing this like subconscious racism. And then through events, I'm like, I want to make sure that these spaces feel as free as I can make them. And these sounds are not only, you know, your average sounds, but we can like play with all genres because all music is Black music. And a lot of people don't think that or realize that. I'm like, yeah, we can turn up at a Guam party and then we can turn up at a techno party, or we can, you know, go to a ballroom. That's all our stuff. That's all the intersections of Blackness, because I think Blackness is like the most expansive, beautiful thing in all the forms it shows, whether it's trans, queer, anything, it's beautiful. And I really like to see spaces that express that. And yeah, it's been a cool journey to see how when Black people feel free, when I see people feel free in a party or an event, that can also translate to like when they're back to normal life because they feel more empowered to maybe take on a situation that they wouldn't have done before because they know they have that community behind them. And I really believe that Black people sticking together, because for millennia, they try to separate us. They want us to be isolated. They want us to not know that XYZ exists because they want us to feel like we're alone and we can only rely on the system. But no. Together we create like monoliths. And I think this panel is like a perfect example of that. And yeah, that's kind of like how I see resistance kind of appearing in the spaces that, we all exist. We're all doing the thing. We all come together, and Black people are powerful as hell. Black queer people, powerful as hell. Okay, superpowers. So yeah, once you believe that, then no systems exist. We can take them all over as long as we support each other. That's like the most important part. But yeah.
Beautiful. Man, it's like the one time that we all thought we are gonna get real superpowers, like on Twitter that one time, but it just didn't happen. I mean, maybe we do, but maybe in a different universe. But yeah, I think a lot of what was said, like the connections and also thinking about resistance and what is truly radical is the like creating normalization in the spaces that you occupy. And I think that kind of leads to like the next question in this section. And Archangel did say something that hits on the nose, that like Black gossip saves lives, especially Black femme gossip. So in the simplest ways, I am going to cut through a lot of the bullshit. What are some critiques as Black organizers that you have in your like nightlife community currently? It seems that a lot of contexts, especially Black organizers, whenever there is a critique, it's either seen as super aggressive or or is really disregarded. I think critique helps in learning about what kind of like problems or issues that exist and where you're working at, and maybe like some of the critiques that you have may be similar in different scenes, but we don't know that. So it's like not really in a way to be like not productive. I think sometimes people believe critique doesn't create productive change or anything, and the space is like really up to like what you would want to talk about. If you're not comfortable like critiquing certain things, that's fine as well. But I do think in sharing like pain or like sharing frustration is a necessary way of like being alive. Like that's how it is. But yeah, and I'm trying to take this off of Twitter, and we're trying to like create this moment of like, what are some critiques you have in the nightlife scene that you work in and that you care so much about, and what ways do you think that it could show up a little bit more for you as like a organizer or like your party series? So, yeah.
I guess I can go first. Just kind of leaning back to what I was saying earlier and a little bit about what Archangel was saying, where it's just like we're told that this is what genius looks like, this is who the pioneers are. And by and large, it can be hard to figure out where you fit into music, and especially like for myself, in Black music as a Black woman, that isn't in a place that's more, what's the word I'm looking for, ornamental or supplementive to like Black male genius. I can name probably on one hand the amount of kind of legacy Black techno labels or house labels and locally, like within Detroit, Chicago, XYZ, that have released music produced by women. Of course, everyone loves to put a woman on a track and have her sing, but what does it look like when like the means of literal production of the work has by and large kind of marginalized Black women? And I think that there's also the invisible labor of women and of queer folks within all of this that's kept it churning. That is pretty erased. Best parties in Detroit have been thrown by women. No one knows their names. And I know there's supposed to be a hierarchy between the artists and the X, Y, or Z, but I think that one thing I've learned, a lot of people who kind of come up through Detroit music, you essentially come in and you apprentice for a label, right? It's like you learn how to run the label, how to produce music, how to DJ, how to navigate the scene. I think men are afforded the privilege of being kind of masters of all. And I think one thing that keeps happening to me is people try to be like, oh, she's good at project management or she's good at this. And I'm like, I'm here for the same reasons. But what does it really look like when Black women are centered in this in a way that acknowledges like all the aspects of our community? I think as a DJ, what people expect when I step up as like a Black woman, especially like a curvy Black woman, they want joyful house music. I don't want to play joyful house music all the time. I'm mad sometimes, you know, and I want to play some weird fucking new wave shit. But it goes back to what I was saying earlier. In a perfect world, I would be organizing for freedom through music, for Black marginalized, even people marginalized for the Black community, those artists. But it's like who actually gets to be free through that, and who kind of has a specific role that people like for them to be laid out. And I think I was also talking earlier about how, I mean, we didn't fall out of a coconut tree. I think all of the work I'm hearing on this call is revolutionary. You know, I feel like everyone is creating something that maybe hasn't been seen in the same way that they're doing it. And I think that that can be really mind-bending to whatever local ecosystem you're part of, who's used to X looking like X and Y looking like Y. With Blueprint especially, though we take inspiration from DJ Minx's Women on Wax, though DJs such as like Huda and Remarkable and Ash Lauren have really paved the way, it's just kind of what we're up against is really building power and autonomy within our unit, and that threatens a lot of people who are used to women especially being kind of like a fractured community, or if you kind of make it so far in your career, you're kind of becoming the only one who's there. And we're saying this is kind of a space that can uphold all of us. And I think that's really threatening as well. So there's a lot of challenges, but I also think that the party we did for Movement this year, it was the biggest party we've ever done. We doubled the attendance from any party we've ever thrown. Live acts, DJs, 2 rooms, and it just was kind of like proof that the hard work does pay off. So I don't want to make it sound like it's all critical, but we all kind of individually go up against a lot. But the outcome of what happens when we come together, it's ecstatic. That's what I'm always chasing as a programmer, is ecstatic experience. And just kind of having all 4 of us come together through it. And then my work with Moods, which is with a Latin guy and a white guy, it's a little bit different, but they support the work I do with Blueprint in a lot of different ways. And I don't know, it's just a lot of things going on all the time, and it's good and it's bad. And that's, I guess, life and music. Sorry, I don't know if that was a lot, but I was like, oof.
No, that was great. But yeah. Do other people have other thoughts or critiques or statements? You know, it could be even questions too. So yeah.
I feel like the music landscape in terms of like queer Black femmes in like Toronto and Canada as a whole, we don't really have like any like labels or like agents or agencies that are like Black femme run. I can think of like one or two across the whole country. So the kind of like the ways that I feel like I draw inspiration is from people outside of the city and outside of the country, which is also like sometimes a little weird. So I'm like, oh, I wish I could like attend something here where I can like, soak up all this like information, or I can get like, mentors that are like in the same city as me and that I can like get inspiration from and like mentorship from. But you kind of have this landscape that's kind of like an open play field, I call it. So it's like fun, but it's also like, yeah, it's like a little daunting. So I'm like, oh, what do I do? But I'm like surrounded by so much talent and so many people that are really passionate. But yeah, the visibility of like Black queer femmes within the music scene here is just very, very low. And I think the ones that do like make it like really big, there's like weird fetishization that happens here with like Black femmes as well, which is just like, it's like almost like uncomfortable. So there's just a lot of like parallel things going on. I think also like access to like spaces, even talking to like some venues, they like won't take me seriously because like I'm a Black fan, or they'll go refer to like my male friend that's with me, and I'm like, no, like it's me. And it's like almost like this constant like uphill battle of like almost having to like prove yourself, but also like be yourself. And like I'm also like neurodivergent too. So sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, burn this all to the ground. I'm done. So it's just like all these like waves that I feel like I deal with consistently, but it's also like in terms of like mentorship and support is something that I really crave in the city, and to see that happening within the city. But yeah, it's just like I think Canada is like a trippy place because it just feels like all these little subcultures existing at the same time, but you almost have to like dig to find them, which can be fun, but sometimes it's like, I just want to like wake up and see it, But yeah, that's what I say.
Critiques that I have of things in my own scenes. I wish there was more of a feeling of being united. I'm sure people feel that across any section of identity, literally anywhere, everywhere, but it can feel so hard because I don't know, Blackness is at the center of all music. So of course there's going to be Black people killing it in dance music, outside of dance music, like literally whatever. And sometimes as a Black woman in music, it can just feel so disheartening because sometimes I feel like there's such a lack of solidarity, or that solidarity is misconstrued. And even myself, I have found myself having moments of feeling super reactive or other things, or like super like I'm gonna fight back on situations that were misogynistic, anti-Black, transphobic, where I feel like, and I don't feel bad that I was reactive or had that emotional response at all, because that's valid. But it's just more like, I hate that the world is the way it is, because I feel like, by just doing that, taking steps forward can feel like harder. But if there was a world in which I feel like the scene was more united when it comes to Black dance music, that even in those moments where somebody is disrespectful to me and I want to snap back, that I can have the satisfaction of snapping back on somebody who disrespected me or my people, and then believe that there will be community accountability and follow through with other people in this person's life or this group, venues, community, like whatever, so that I'm able to have that release and do what I need to do, while there's other people that are like, we care about you, so we're going to follow up and follow through with this situation and hold you accountable so this doesn't happen again, and that you can broaden your worldview or change the way you interact with the world so we can be united together as Black musicians. And, feeling united in any sort of way, it's not always going to happen. Okay. There's always going to be like, um, yeah, there's always going to be like people that are the antithesis of that. So that can feel hard, especially when it comes to like literal cultural and local boycotts of like venues and other places. Like, of course, as we see what's happening in Palestine and in Sudan, when it comes to people from both of those countries asking people to hold cultural boycotts of places like the United Arab Emirates and places within there, and also boycotting venues and associations that are in and uplift Israel, and cultural boycotts of some institutions in Germany. And it's like people can't get behind these bigger things that are affecting Black people in Sudan and Palestine on a grand scale, and all the way to people can't fuck with boycotting a particular promoter, party, or venue in our local scenes that have disrespected Black women, have disrespected Black people, have yada, yada, yada. Um, and that can just feel so difficult because the way the world is set up, it is a rat race for people to be able to make money and survive if they're just doing art, especially as somebody who's been like a working artist for the past couple years and only doing that. It is really hard to say no to certain gigs. It really is. And these venue owners know that. These venue owners will really take advantage of like, oh, I'm the club that can book you a lot. So even if I was called out by this one person, I'm gonna offer you this money where I know you have to accept the gig. Or I'm gonna offer you this money even though you're asking for more because I know you still have to take it regardless of what I should pay you or not. And I just wish that I literally talk seriously and joke about DJ unions and our nightlife unions all the time because I'm like, but I've gone from joking to being like, no, something got to give because like for real, like shit is really dire out here and shit is not cute. Even if it isn't a union, even if it's like a united front or something that has like some greater power across scenes, um, I just want to see more of that. And the thing is, no matter where I travel in this world, Black people organizing and dance music are having these same problems that just look different everywhere, literally everywhere. And the world is so much smaller than you think it is. And yeah, that's my big critique is I want to feel like I'm in a different situation. I want to feel like more things can change. I want to feel the power go from the people that have money that are running institutions that aren't necessarily artists themselves or people who are actually a part of the culture and the scenes, but people that more look at it as a business venture first and then culture second. No, I want it back in the people that have pioneered these spaces, the people that have made dance music popular as it is today, and the people who changed the world, and that comes to Black people of all identities, all of them, and all diasporas and all places in the world. I just want to feel different. I often feel really frustrated. Honestly, and they all know, even the ones that are my friends, but like I'm my male or cis het straight dude peers in dance music, whether they're like, my friends usually are good about like, standing up for like what's right and backing cultural boycotts, backing women, trans people, even if they're like not that, but on a greater scale of people that aren't in like my personal life. Sometimes I feel disappointed because I'm just always wishing, I wish you were just a little bit more vocal. I wish you would like not be afraid to like post something to Maine and be like, actually, I'm not going to work with this venue because they did this to this group of trans people and try supporting this party instead, or looking for a new venue because these women were just disrespected there. I'm using my platform, like, I'll connect you to the right people. Like little things like that can literally go such a long way because I have asked the cis straight men in my life in dance music to do things like that. And things do change after people do things like that. I have used my own privilege as being somebody with I don't know, some social media presence and presence in the scene to speak up, and things will change and people will get access to spaces that they weren't able before. Whether it's me like getting people list to an expensive festival that they wouldn't have paid for. And then the next year they get booked there because they went to the festival, made a lot of friends, people kept up with them and they were like, oh, we should book you, you know, so opening doors for people and literally like closing doors to things that don't work, being like, I'm not going to do this right now because of where y'all are at and how it's affecting our people because peer pressure works. Sorry, like it really does when it comes to coming together and making a stand against something. So, and that's even a self critique in myself, like times where I'm like, dang, which way could I have showed my solidarity more and shared my solidarity? But it feels like a double edged sword because even myself being I'm like action. I'm always like action, choose something, like do something, say something. But there's been times where I reflect on my action and I don't regret what I did, but I'm like, I wish I acted in a way that would have invited more people to stand together with me because it can feel so hard to be a Black woman in this industry because a lot of times I'm like, I gotta fend for myself. I have to support myself. That's how it's always been. Even though I'm doing this for other people, I gotta like handle myself. And really, it's like, I have to remind myself my end goal is like unity. My end goal is togetherness. My end goal is interconnectedness and building a network of Black, queer, trans women, people around the world. And I'm trying to learn how to do that better myself because when it comes to me wanting to speak out on something or join boycotts or do that, I want everybody to feel, not everybody, but I want us as a community, a greater community, to feel more on the same page, more united, and more like we're looking out for each other because in the end, that will benefit all of us, regardless of identity, even non-Black people, seriously. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, something I love about this conversation is that I'll have like a little question in my head and then each of you will answer it. And so this is really great and we really appreciate you all. This question, I think, is the perfect follow-up to what you just said, Archangel. So what do you think your scene actually gets right about community building and nightlife? Who's gonna go?
I can go, even though I just talked. What my community does right. My community tears on the decks. Sorry, like my community eats on Bandcamp every month. My community knows how to dance and make the dance floor feel like a little piece of heaven. I'm constantly astounded at my community making life feel so fun that I literally feel overloaded. And there's some weekends where it's like, I can't even go out because I know it's going to be so crazy and I'm so tired from like this last one. And it really is a beautiful thing to exist in a world where that feels common, even if we don't get access to the same spaces as other generalized, popularized parties that aren't aimed for us. You know what I mean? But it still feels really beautiful to see people do things in the pockets that we're afforded. Like, I remember I went to Slick Down staying at Bossa and the whole night I was just like, I'm having so much fun. Like, this is so cool. And yeah, this is dope. And I think I wasn't even expecting to go because I was too tired. But then my friends were like, let's go. And I was like, okay. So I got out there and I'm just like, man, like, I'm just so happy that this can be like a normal thing in my life, that I could just like step out, have a good time, see people like me. And also, when I lived in Richmond, where I feel like there was a lot less access to that population, and where the pockets of Black queer people, pockets of Black women, and pockets of Black trans people felt smaller in this way. Not even saying there was like less Black people, but like the congregations of them in our scene and dance music just felt like less. I even felt grateful in those smaller spaces where it would be us partying in our living rooms, like turning that out like house shows in basements. It was just like, wow, I'm so glad that we can have a good time and there's so much talent out there. I mean, like me going to different places like in Europe or even now in Japan, where I've seen Black people like kill it on the decks and Black people that live in Japan like make the club so much fun. Or Black people in Canada, like really tearing on the decks and leading amazing like party series and like spaces. Um, and a lot of times I feel like I find these spaces when I'm not even intended to. It's sometimes like when I'm not even throwing something, when I'm just like going out and I'm like, wow, I'm so happy this exists. Things like Dweller Festival, like that's another thing my community gets right. Um, and in the like greater, like I guess trans community, what my community gets right is I'm really glad to exist in like personal friend groups and friend structures that feel like they go around the world, like quite literally. Even if I'm not best friends with everybody, even if I'm not like close with everybody, I feel like what my community gets right is just being connected in this larger sense. And it is really beautiful to witness. And that's why I always tell people like, try to go to other things and other like cities and spaces, even if you can't like afford to leave the country that you're in, just like somewhere else, something different that isn't your own thing, because it will really remind you how expansive our community is, like how much we're all invested in what we want to do. And honestly, how much we all want to take care of each other, even if we initially think that we can't. There are moments where it's just like this beautiful thing of, wait, we can take care of each other, or I can support you even if I don't live in your city, or oh, I can support you even if we're not in the same genre or scene of dance music or artistic expression or life in general. So that's what my community is, right? I feel like just feeling so interconnected, regardless of the situation, regardless of the space and the circumstances. And that's a beautiful thing to see.
Um, Good music, great music, the world's best music. Um, there's a phrase here that I think is probably just a widely known phrase, but I've only heard it here, which is, what's it? Steel sharpens steel. If you got a room full of DJs, right? Now all these DJs have international acclaim, and they're watching you play, you're gonna step up. And it's just ideally, like, it's not my ideal world of tension or of hardship. But the result of those things, I think, are musicians who can really pour it into their music. It was back in the day, like in Motown, when they were still like active and churning out hits, artists would travel from all over the world to record their music in Detroit because they thought there must be something in the water that's kind of giving them this sound and this style. And they wanted to just get a little bit of that onto their records. And I think that same spirit still exists here. And I think that's what keeps people here. It can be a cold city, it can be a hard city, but it's a beautiful city. And I think that can never be understated, the impact that Detroit has on music and on music culture. It's all of these juxtapositions of hot and cold and hard and soft and organic and inorganic. And, I just think that it's the most wonderful thing. And, that's the good right part.
Yeah, I love all the cities. I love Detroit. I love New York, and I love all that you guys are doing. I was like, fangirling. But yeah, Toronto. I think Toronto. The one thing about Toronto is that like everyone knows like the most diverse city in the world. So I think it's really special to be able to just like get influenced by the world. It kind of feels like, I can go one night. I can go like dance to some Latin music. I can go dance to some like Japanese house. I can go, I can visit every country basically in one city. And I think that has such an influence on like my own music. And also like, I feel like I can learn so much about the world without leaving Toronto because everyone has such personal stories where they come from. So it's just like, meeting people, seeing what queerness is like in Colombia, or what queerness is like in Ghana, or what queerness is like in Japan. And it's like I can access all that information without leaving the city. And I think that's really magical because it also like expands my own mindset and understanding that, you know, the world is big and the world has so many pockets, but it's also not that big as well. Like kind of like what Archangel said, like we all are kind of connected in the same kind of like ethos, which I think is really like heartwarming sometimes. It's almost like, oh yeah, if I go to, you know, this random city in South America, I'm gonna find a cute little queer community and I'll feel comfortable. And I think that's really beautiful, and something nice about Toronto is that you can really meet people from around the world. And like within my own like Black community, everyone's just so supportive, so weird, and I love it. All the things that my friends like come up with and create, it's just like always inspiring. So I'm like, where are you getting this from? You know, but I'm like, this is amazing. And yeah, I think everyone is just ready to uplift, and the community I have is very strong. And I think everyone is just so talented and so eager to share the talent as well. And everyone else has a bust a move, and they're crazy on the decks too. Like, yeah, every time I'm like, damn, these are really the people around me. Like, that's crazy. Like, it's such a privilege to be able to experience everybody, and see them grow into themselves and express more and more as, you know, time goes on. And yeah, it almost feels like we're like in elementary school growing up together and just having to do music and figure it out. And like kind of like nurturing that inner child. I think it's very playful and very fun. And yeah, I'm grateful for it.
I love what you all just said. And, you know, it reminded me of something that my girlfriend actually always says to me about Slick Down, is that we're like little kids just like building a world together. And that's so true. Like everything you all said just like resonates. And I'm just like, oh, yes. Something else that we were wondering is just like, this shit is hard. Like we all can acknowledge that. We've said it, it's hard. And like I think like as organizers, like your labor often goes unnoticed. And so just curious about like some care practices you instill in yourself, but also like community care practices that you're a part of. Like, yeah.
Let's see. My girlfriends, they're thick and thin. That's it. That's it. I got my girls and they got me. That's kind of the strongest care I can give myself, is calling Yasmina at 1 a.m. to talk about this party I just went to, or texting Janice and I just got off the phone for this call. I think having people who understand what it is that you do, because they do similar things. I also have a lot of friends who aren't related to the music industry at all. But I would say that the friendships right now that are grounding me through all this are people who are in the mud with me. I remember like Yasmina has been a resident for Blueprint for the past couple of years, but this was the first year where we officially added her as a producer for the event. And there was something that happened. We had to do a call after with one of the artists. In the past, I would have just done the call by myself because I'm like, you know, this is my responsibility. And I was like, you know, actually, I can have everybody else sit in with me so I don't have to bear the brunt of the hardship of the conversation. And it was great. And it's fantastic to be able to do that. And I think that especially kind of what I said earlier, there's a lot of incentives to be the only person of your identity in the spaces that you're in, to be tokenized in it and to be isolated through it. But it's just hold on to those friendships because they're so much important in the business element. They're what keeps me going, keeps me alive, keeps me focused. And yeah, it's a big part.
Yeah, I feel like Something I try to like always remind myself is like to always fill from like a full cup. And like anytime I feel like I am not kind of consuming as much as I'm like putting out, I always like take a month to just consume. Like I'm just like a student of the world. Like I'm just like I went to your blueprint party in Detroit. It was so good, and I was just like, so good. And I was like, music, Black people, vibes.
You were here?
Yeah.
Why didn't you say anything? Oh my God. Thank you.
It was so amazing. Like I had such a good time. Yeah.
Y'all are crazy.
So good. But yeah, just taking a month to just like be a student of the world, find new music, just kind of be like, I call it be like an NPC. Like I'm just like, no one taught to me. I'm just like consuming. And then I feel like I have enough to kind of like produce from, because I'm like, I have all this like information, all these experiences, new relationships, and that like kind of keeps me grounded. And as well, like, because I started out being a farmer, being an herbalist, like working with the earth, and like nature is like my main grounding point. So something that's really important to me is also involving like wellness within the Black community, because I feel like the wellness space is like super white, and it's just like no, Black people deserve this space too, like even more so, I would say. And I think that as Black people, we also hold a lot of trauma like in our bodies, and I think that is something that folks don't know. It's like your body can hold so much and like absorb so much, but we're never releasing it because we're almost like always in this like fight or flight state. So I try to like encourage like movement and just like relaxation, like pure relaxation, where you're just like existing and you're relaxing, your body's relaxed. So I think a big part of it, like even like organizing or anything, is just like actual stress relief, you know, like feeling good, feeling free, and like identifying what that shows up to you as. It can be like something simple as like going for a walk, or even like dancing your heart out for like 10 hours, like whatever it is, whatever makes you feel free is, I think, very important in like community care. And I think also providing spaces where people can be like, oh yeah, I'm like trying this tea and it makes me feel really relaxed. Like, let me add this to like my routine. Or like, damn, I went to this party, I danced for 15 hours. I feel great. Let me do it again tomorrow. You know, like me, I can't move my back, but like back in the day, you know, that was the thing, but now it's like evolved. So yeah, spaces where that can be identified too, I think it's really important. But yeah.
Okay, I want to ask the question again, because for both of those answers, I was so involved and like so being like, oh, this is amazing, that I just want to be locked back in. So can I get the question one more time, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just like, as organizers, our labor is oftentimes unnoticed. And so it's just, what are the ways that you care for yourself and also that your community care functions?
Good question. I'm constantly trying to figure out how to take better care of myself as an artist and organizer. Just to be honest and vulnerable and raw with y'all, that is like one of the biggest lessons that I am learning. Just because, like, oh my God, like those memes that are like, Jesus didn't grind or Muhammad wasn't grinding, like the idea of like grind culture being like, like whatever. And I always look at that and I'm cracking up because I'm like, what? But it's just like, yeah, like the idea of like, that's so what I'm used to, right? Is just like working as hard as possible, because not everything in life has come easy to me. Like some things have, but like a lot of other things haven't. So I think that's so important, and I'm really glad that that was a question that was on here, because honestly, that is something that I've been really trying to get back to and to get started on in many ways. And I remember my friend Adonis, who is a DJ, who has also participated in like grassroots fundraising, organizing, and also is somebody that his name is Nija Couture when he DJs, but he's like incredible, Black trans legend from the South. But I think he just exhibits community care in this way that is so simple on like, you know, we met through just regular gay shit and like nightlife stuff. But I remember when I first met him, this was years ago in a different stage of my transition. He was like, oh, yeah, I have dresses for you. I have skirts for you. I have like other things that I think you could look good in when you DJ. And I was just like thinking of you. And like I would just see him do that with other friends in the nightlife community of like, oh, you should have this or you should do this. And then just like my other friends in DJ or friends in my DJ scene, like cis women or even people that aren't trans women, like other queer and like non-binary people, um, offering me like support in terms of like beauty or embracing myself, embracing my womanhood, and like also making me feel safe in this world, even if they aren't like the same kind of woman that I am. And I feel like that is such huge community care within my scene. And it's funny because a lot of it happens outside of the club because as quiet as it's kept, like that stuff is stuff that's supposed to happen when you're not like in the middle of the moment, when you're not in that moment of euphoria on the dance floor. Like community care happens when you're kind of having those blues after you participate in a really amazing event or festival or plan something and you were like, wow, that was so much fun. We did so good. But now we're back to a world that isn't seeing us in the way that we were at this time and things like that. Like that's where community care comes in. And I feel like in my experience, when community care feels so good is when people are just invested in my life that honestly has nothing to do with my music or like nothing to do with like my DJing. And I say nothing to do and everything has something to do with each other, but you know what I mean. It's like those little things that I feel like are happening outside of the context of my workplace or like the place where I organize or show my skills in music. And um that's been the moments that I've always like made me cry, like when a bunch of like DJs that have played a night before, especially if it's a lineup full of niggas and stuff, and we're just like in a different country and then we're just like hanging out. Or like even in my own city when or in the States when I'm touring around, it was just like we're hanging out, we're spending time, like we're laughing and like just being silly. It's just like in a world that's so hard like this, people that will like uplift you and take care of you outside of the dance floor is like not to be underestimated and like not to be taken for granted because like those are the relationships and connections that will go so far and help you even in the world of music, even if like those things aren't happening. And these community care moments also happen with people that aren't DJs or musicians themselves, but people that attend that are always coming out that just want to like support me and stuff. And you know, you always going to get lit, sis, because like you're helping me with all this stuff and you care about me, even though you're not somebody who does this. You know what I mean? And I think those are the moments that feel just like so beautiful and make me feel that like literally life can happen and like that things are crazy and the world is literally always ending, but there's people that are going to take care of me, there's people that I'm going to take care of. Like just like a simple like sending somebody a silly meme to being like, girl, I'm gonna come over today and we're gonna hang out, I know you've been like working really hard. Or when my friends just did a lot of organizing, I'm like, you need anything? Like, you want me to come through and be low key like a host? I'm not working tonight or something like that. I got your back. You want any food? I can bring some because I'm gonna make it to the show late, but let me bring something, like kind of thing. Um, or even like, I don't know, my friends coming and like giving me presents for my set, like somebody bringing me flowers when I don't expect it, or like bringing me like some pre-rolls and being like, oh, thought of you, or like bringing me my favorite candy, Reese's, in case anybody's wondering, to the decks, like things like that. Like those are the tiny moments where I'm like, man, things feel so hard, but like people are just thinking of me in these little ways that go that can like literally lead to like changing my life low key. Like who would have known like my oomph that was like, you would look good in this skirt could like be like, oh wow, I really fuck with this, huh? Like kind of thing. And then like everything in my life turning out the way it is now. So community care moments like that, the little things go so far. And even again, people that can't relate to my identity, cis, heteronormative, straight people, non-Black folks, things like that. Like those people just being invested, even if they don't understand like my life, just taking the moment to like be like, hey, what's up? How are you doing? You want to talk about this? Oh, you want to hang out? Like things like that goes really far.
Damn, community, having friends, that's what makes the world go round. You know, if anyone's seen Smiling Friends, like that's a good TV show, but unrelated. Um, but yeah, talking about like hang out with the girls, making sure you're the wellness and centering nature and in DJing, and as well being seen outside of DJing and being a whole person. I think those are really great idea, like not ideas, but like the day-to-day like reality of like what we do, and people don't understand that because you know everyone's on their screens, and not realizing sometimes they're L's or like the quiet things that you go through, you know, that's not what we're presenting. And your real friends or your community that really holds you, like carries you through to like the next party. And that gets you to the last and final question before we head to like the Q&A in the chat. And it's about imagination and futurity. Um, so definitely in a world where electronic music is made to seem like the future, and it is in a way. I wonder how much do we imagine ourselves in that future? And what ways do you imagine the future of music, of DJing, of clubbing for yourself and other Black spaces and people? And what type of parties or resources do you envision in this future? And, you know, I am a big believer of speaking things into existence. So this is like really for the dreamers, really for everyone trying to like believe, like everything you say come into like belief. So what are your big dreams of like this music, or like what, or even like where you want to be too? So yeah. And it's okay to bask in the joy. You know, we can talk about some slick down dreams. You know, we have our little chat in Discord. We have a dreams Discord like section because we always be dreaming and yapping. Um, yeah, I think slick down. We want to obviously create more spaces for compilations and like tapes and everything, but also just like a network, creating more networks of people being connected. Um, and actually, let me pull up some of the dreams. Or even doing more daytime stuff, like really small shit. It's not even like big shit, just trying to have like more fun with the things that we do and trying not to get in this like cycle of like rat race. I don't know, some of you have like the other.
Absolutely. I think like something we've talked about is just like how we found ourselves in a very hectic, busy period all of a sudden. And we're like, this is crazy. This is not like, yes, the three of us are always talking about nobody wants to work anymore. But we were working a little too much and we were like, we need to pull it back. So something that, yeah, I feel like, Reg, what you said about like us just having more time to like chill with people and have more of like more community spaces. So like, for example, we're having like a vinyl share in August, little reveal. We're doing it with Naya West, and it's just going to be like a chill hangout. We're just hanging out. We're just going to listen to records. People can bring them. That's really a big thing we want more of, is just like people actually getting to know each other, like outside of the club. Like, you know.
Then we're gonna try to definitely do a cookout before the end of the summer. You know, food, you know, you can DJ, but also it's not like really a DJ event. It's really just like hanging out. We're working out the kinks of that. And then also Joe put a really great dream. You know, we're gonna provide, you know, we haven't thought through a lot of this like logistically, but we're gonna provide free self-defense classes to any and all Black people so we can beat people up because people be talking shit. So that way we can stop a lot of people talking shit. And not really doing any type of work. You know, we need to endorse this. You know, we need a real sponsor, but you know, we can handle that after this conversation. So, what are your dreams?
I mean, personal dreams. I feel like in 10 years, I might just be in the middle of nowhere on a ranch, and I listen to a couple of songs, you know, a day that get me through. And the blueprint has been passed on into someone else's hands, and it's achieved a life on its own. I think I view myself more as a builder, and I'll build it and then give it off to somebody else to really raise to full fruition. Choosing to stay within music, just having a label that puts out good music on a semi-annual basis is kind of the biggest dream. For Blueprint, I want Blueprint to be whatever my collaborators want it to be or need it to be. I want it to be fluid through their dreams and through their vision. For Moods, pretty much the same thing. But I think it was Archangel that was saying things change, and it's just knowing when to exit and when to stay is so important. That's like the rhythm of life. But yeah, I think whatever feels good at the time that's happening, whatever is needed at the time it's happening, and just kind of staying in motion. I think sometimes people hang on to a dream or an idea, has its expiration date out of fear, and I never want to be in that place either. So fluidity and friendship and music and whatever pathway that looks like. I think that the future and futurism and all of these things are maybe not super relevant to my personality. I feel very retro. I feel really analog. But if someone else sees the future and they think that something I do can help get there, they can have it.
Oh, yeah, I feel like, yeah, for 999 Herd, 9 is like symbolizes like constant rebirth and constant change. And I feel like I really want it to kind of develop into a way where everyone kind of feels like they're a part of it. Like anyone can like take the name or the brand as long as they feel like they can contribute to the idea that they're adding to like the rebirth. And I think over like the past year of like organizing, every party and event has been different. Every space has been different and has branched off to people creating like their own things, which I think is also part of that like rebirth cycle and that rebirth symbolism. Yeah, and I definitely want to bring in more people like from outside of Toronto into Toronto, because I feel like there's just such a wide array of like Black talent across the world that I just want to like see here, because I feel like a lot of people want to visit Toronto, but no one ever visits Toronto. So I want to bring people here, especially like Detroit too, because Detroit's like literally like 4 hours away, and I think there should be a better Detroit Toronto connection, because yeah, it's literally right there. So yeah. And then I think I also really want to make more spaces for like Black rage. I threw like a rage event last year, and that felt so good to just like scream and mosh with like Black people. I was like, oh, it's so good. I'm so angry. Yes. So I think rage is something that we're not really allowed to express as much. So yeah, I want to throw, more Black punk shows, more just like, trap, rap, just like grimy, like nigger with a hard R shit, shit that like they don't want us to be. I'm like, I want us to make space for that. But yeah, I just really see 909 Herd as like something that anyone can like grasp onto. And I kind of see it as, I don't know if this is like a childhood coping mechanism, but I had a very vivid imagination. And so in my head, like every party is almost like a little like TV show. I don't know if that's like, I'm not crazy, but like, I see all my friends, all the DJs as like characters, and everyone's just kind of like interacting in this like animated way. So in my head, I feel like I see this as like maybe like an anime in the future, because I feel like, I don't know, it'd be so cool to see like a Black rave queer anime. Like, wouldn't it be crazy? So like that's like my like long-term goal. I'm like, somebody give me money to make an anime because I have it already. It's ready. And yeah, I just feel like, yeah, I just want to see that happen. I want to see a cartoony world. I want to see rage, and yeah, putting it all out there into the universe and bring people to Toronto as well. So yeah.
Okay, okay, where do I even start? One, I've never been to Detroit and I really, really want to go. So many people tell me about it. Obviously, it's like when we're talking about America, one of like the birthplaces and epicenters of Black dance music, and just like I don't know, just after hearing so much and listening to so much, and then seeing people from Detroit go tour and play in places that I've occupied and lived in the East Coast, I'm like, that's I'm bummed that I haven't been before, but excited because I'm like, wow, like that's gonna open my eyes in new ways. And I'm super stoked. My friend Ta just played there, I'm pretty sure. So that was cool to see him do. But also, okay, what you were saying about the anime, wow, you took the words out of my mouth. That is literally one of my life goals. I'm like, okay, when we both make animes, we'll have a crossover episode or season. Just saying they exist in the same universe. It's canon. But no, I actually do think of my life as this like really crazy fantastical thing because I'm an identity where I'm even if I'm not actually legal, I'm illegal everywhere in the world. Like there's always going to be people debating my existence and people like me everywhere in the world. And the fact that I'm able to do this, like, I'm not a rich person at all. I still always have to figure out money stuff and things aren't like always like the easiest, but when I think about dreams, something that I write in my journal sometimes is like I have to remember I'm living the dream in the sense of like I am amongst Black people, Black women, Black queer folks, trans, non-binary that are just doing incredible work, filling dance rooms, absolutely killing their sets. And I get to see Black women, Black queer folks, Black people in general do this in spaces around the world. And like before I started DJing, I was a curator because I wanted to see my friends kill it. And I was more just focused on, I want to go dance and I want to have a good time. So, how do I get y'all behind the booth or on a stage so that we can have the time of our lives? And then people were like, you got to start DJing. And I was like, well, I guess. And then, like, I started doing that. So, a lot of times I'm like, wow, I literally feel like I'm living the dream. And I feel like DJ Noir often posts on Twitter like if you're a DJ or an organizer and you're like doing this as like one of your things that you just do often in life, like be grateful because this is really amazing. And then I feel like I talk to my queer elders and things like that, being like, there's a lot of stuff that's not good in today and things that have definitely got worse. But there are spaces and situations that are easier for people to be themselves and to celebrate and to come together and congregate and dance and like we need to be like aware and thankful of that. So sometimes when I think about dreams, I'm like, damn, like, bitch, you kind of already living in one. That's kind of cool, right? But when I think about the future, oh my gosh, I want so many things to change, but I would really love to see our communities own more spaces or have bigger stakes in more spaces. Like we deal with so much. I'm sort of like, we will deal with things amongst each other because that's just life and that's the way things are. But I'd rather deal with that beef than some beef from some like white cis het man who is like bullying another DJ over like a booking or something like that that could like change their livelihoods, you know? You know what I mean? Like I would rather figure that out within our own demographics and our own communities than have to deal with these people that have a history of actively oppressing and erasing us. So I want to, for more Black people of marginalized genders and identities to have their own spaces because I think that would be amazing. Sometimes I'm like, would I have my own space? And other times I'm like, oh, I want to be autonomous. I want to be able to travel around and do things and I don't want to be too tied down. But I do want to like help with some. I feel like cities that have been instrumental in my life are places in Virginia where I'm from. A lot of my family is from Philadelphia. So a lot of what I know of dance party culture and like DJing just comes from my times in Philadelphia as a young adult, especially when I was branching outside of my family. And then places that I was used to passing through, just traveling up and down to see my family. So, like, Baltimore City and Washington, D.C. I just like these places were so instrumental in like creating who I was on a family, personal life level and like a dance, inter-community music kind of level. And I really hope to be able to be a part of like funding projects that get like these spaces in each of those cities. I'm like, even if I can just like help throw the parties or make propaganda or connect people to the right thing, like that would be such a dream to like see that come together, whether they're residencies, whether they're studios, whether they're venues, whether it's places where people can use to hold things like this in person or streaming or like just places for education. Like that just feels like a dream. And then being able to inspire people to do that around the world. I think another big dream is being a part of something that like creates grants for people because Body Hack and Ice Cream Social have done things that have involved giving people grants and or being a part of initiatives that like help fundraise for things like grants and things like that or budgeting to pay people enough that it's like giving like grant for the amount of work that they're doing in an environment that's usually not paying them that much, you know? So just taking that even further, I mean, like when we think of Body Hack, got Glitz. Also, okay, I'm gonna plug this fundraiser. One of my dreams is Body Hack is organizing our first nonstop at Redacted. I'm not going to say the venue online. You can look up Body Hack and you can figure out where it is. But we're throwing a nonstop 40-hour party with more than 20 artists to help Glitz, gays and lesbians living in a transgender society, raise $1 million because what they are doing, they are maintaining an apartment residential housing complex owned and operated by a Black trans woman, not rented, owned. And this place gives people stability. This place gives people a place to live. There are wellness programs that a person can sign up for that gets them connected to healthcare, that gets them connected to life-saving resources, protection, gives prioritization to people that do and have done sex work and gives them options to continue that work safely, or if they're trying to transition to other things or include other things in their work life, give them the opportunity to do that. This is unheard of and has inspired organizations across the world. When I think about my dreams, it's right in front of me with Glitz, like what they do and everything. And it is such a good model. I even tell people that just throw dance parties and that aren't like usually grassroots fundraising, like look at stuff like Glitz. And if you ever want to do a fundraiser for your party and that's like not something that you usually do, look for something like Glitz in your community. You will find it or find somebody trying to do something like that. Glitz is also trying to build a wellness center in Reeves Beach. And when we think about Reeves Beach, you know that building that's in the back, like that, it used to be an asylum or whatever, and it's not being used. And Cayenne Door Show is literally like, I want to create something like that for people here. And especially when we think about New York and other cities up and down the East Coast and honestly across America, how the Black, trans, and queer and sex worker population, which even includes like Black cis women, were ravaged by the AIDS pandemic and like how nobody showed up for any of us at all. That in this day and age, having a wellness center, that's like iconic and like unheard of. So we're trying to help them raise $1 million. And Glitz actually, people already helped fundraise Glitz raise $1 million in 2020. And that's how they got this housing facility. That's how they gave programs to people. That's how they've helped so many people survive, so many families and friends take care of end of life expenses for people, as traumatizing as that can be in Black, trans, and trans community just in general. Glitz has been able to help people when they're still alive, after they've left, support families that had somebody that like left them behind because of life circumstances. It's just like so incredible. So one of my dreams is to help fundraise $1 million for Glitz. Our nonstop party is June 29th and 30th. That's the Saturday and Sunday of Pride weekend. And this fundraiser will continue until that $1 million is met. You can follow Body Hack on Instagram or you can look at my Instagram at Archangel DJ, and you'll be linked to the right propaganda to find us, to help us fundraise. And we're trying to encourage people in other cities to help us fundraise too, because Kaya and Dorsho does work not only in New York, but has done work in different parts of the Caribbean, has inspired other people in different parts of the world, like Europe and other places too. So it's just like helping Glitz helps create a ripple across the world. And please, please help us fundraise 1 million, help my dream come true, because that's a tangible one. Okay, like that's an easy one. But beyond the fundraiser, I don't know. One of my dreams, I want to create an anime. I want to score movies. I actually want to help make video games and score video games, because video games are what got me into music. And it's really funny because when you think about video games, a lot of popular ones come from outside of America. And even those video games, the music in them are inspired by Black music and are literally things like 808 hip hop patterns, club music, techno, house. Like, it's crazy, you know? Any country, anything, anybody producing this media or video games are like fantastical shit is based in Black culture. And I don't know, my future is to be able to help create like housing, wellness centers for people, and to make life feel like more of a movie for me and my friends and all the cool things we do, and help us travel to different parts of the world to meet each other.
That was so beautiful. And literally everyone, thank you all so much for like literally just like being here, being you, for all the work you do and all the like joy and like space you provide. And I don't know, it's just so generous. So we're really grateful, and we're gonna ask a Q&A question. And I mean, we're trying to wrap in the next few minutes. So if you feel called to answer. And then like, I just like would love for you all to like, I don't know, plug your stuff, plug whatever you want to plug, you know, plug Glitz again, like plug whatever you want at the end of this. So yeah, question here that we got. I'm like, we have a few minutes left and I say this. Huge question. But how did 2020, COVID, protests, etc., impact your work / your scene? What of those have persisted to today? So anyone that feels called to answer.
I think that 2020, of course, was a very tragic year. But that's also the genesis of Blueprint. I think it provided a bit of a glitch in the matrix for us to come about. So it's complicated. But definitely, I know so many artists who were impacted, so many artists who that was supposed to be their year. You know what I mean? And then life did a 180. Things shook up really differently. But I think the disruption, there's a phrase that's like chaos is a ladder. I think that came to fruition in a lot of different ways, throughout music, throughout art. And so you're pairing all of these things that wouldn't have really been possible before with things that are unspeakably tragic, unspeakably awful, but it's the death and it's the rebirth. So yeah, I think that's kind of in reflection what was experienced on a personal level and also on an organizational level.
Thank you. Anyone else want to answer? All right. Okay. Yes?
Yes, I do want to answer. COVID was such a huge turning point. I agree with you. I feel like that was supposed to be a lot of people's years, and then it just like totally canceled that out. As somebody who's been doing a lot of community organizing and other things I can't talk about since before 2020, it was triggering as fuck because I was just like, oh my God, so many people are like, Black Lives Matter, like literally around the world, not even places like the US, but still, it was just like, wow, no matter where you've been, you've already been aware of anti-blackness in your place for so long. And it's just like for people to be like, "Ah, we care about Black voices, we care about Black music," was like a lot. It was also weird because I feel like I saw a lot of people get opportunities that they wouldn't have been afforded otherwise that helped jumpstart them in a lot of ways. And also a moment of community unity because we were all being triggered by what was happening all the time, even if we can't relate to each other. If you're Black, no, like you were seeing that stuff all the time or the reactions to it. Um, so blessing and curse. I mean, COVID was like still, I think, yeah, one of the most awful things that have happened in the world, like ever. I don't know. Yeah, just like the way every country's public healthcare system basically like failed them. Not every country, but damn, especially the one I live in. Like, come on. So it's just like to see that happen, yet to see so many artists rise and communities rise out of that and survive that was really beautiful because we lost a lot of amazing people. We lost a lot of amazing things and amazing venues and spaces. And again, when I talk about appreciating the life in the moment, those are one of those things where it's just like, wow, I just wish I appreciated life so much more like before this and why I continue to do it after or try to. Um, COVID also brought a lot of questions about accessibility in dance spaces because even now COVID's like not over and I'm a DJ as like my regular life thing. And then also I got FFS recently. So a lot of times since I got some stuff done right here, wearing masks can be like painful to me if I wear it a wrong way or for an amount of time. So it's often been like, this is like sort of a vulnerable point where I can't always like do the thing that like makes me the most safe. And a lot of people have been talking about wanting to feel safe enough to come to spaces. But a lot of these times, these venues aren't going to enforce everybody like wearing a mask, for example, or they're not going to invest in these air systems that can like really prevent people from getting sick, even though that would be easy enough to do. Because when I look it up myself, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of things you could do to mitigate things that I feel like DIY groups are thinking about more rather than people with the resources and connections to make that happen and just like uplift that for everybody because these are the people concerned with making money and we're the people trying to survive and make spaces for our people. So there's two completely different places on the creative ecosystem, right? So I feel like that's what COVID like brought a lot of. It caused me to face myself because I was so devastated at the reality that nightlife changed forever that I was just like, wow, I've lived so much of my life in a lie, just being trans and existing in the closet before that I was just like, no, I'm appreciating life as it is from this moment forward. And I'm going to be completely and authentically myself because the world can change so fucking fast. But what stays constant is our solidarity and commitment to ourselves and each other. So I was like, I'm following this full force, no more just following the bullshit because I was tired. I was tired after all of that many years of marching for Black lives and then suddenly see everybody care, then literally forget, and then also like now re-understand because there's a new not even new, but like new to, I guess, social media and larger media outlets, like a new humanitarian crisis that people are again being reactionary and being like, we care, but years later, will you still be invested in these people's like liberation? So COVID 2020, complicated time, has influenced so much. Sometimes I'm like, we're still in that period.
Thank you. Anything else to add? Okay, with that, we will be wrapping up. Yeah, I mean, truly so grateful for you all and like your time and your energy with us here today. This has been incredible and has felt like personally just like exactly what I needed. So I'm really grateful. There's a lot that y'all said that really was hitting me, like even just like outside of my DJ life. So thank you so much. Yeah, would love for you all to like give us your information. Where can we find you? What are you up to? Where do you want us to be? Like, tell us what do you need from us and tell us what's up.
Blueprint has our anniversary this July. It's the end of July. So if you're in Detroit, last weekend in July, last Friday, it's going to be at Spotlight. We have some really special headliners coming through, as well as, of course, always local artists, best artists in the world from Detroit. And then personal note, you can follow me on Instagram at CMIONER, C minor. I feel like this year, this summer, a lot of transitional things are happening. So it's kind of like closed for remodeling. Then I'll open back up sometime later this year. But yeah, follow Blueprint as well. I think it's blueprint.313. Follow Moods, which is Moods. It's like a bunch of M's, bunch of O's, but you could find it from my personal page as well. So those are kind of just the big things. And, thank you for listening to the panel.
Yeah, I guess next for 909 Herd, we have a party on Saturday. We're doing like a 10-hour rave outside underneath a bridge. And if you want information, you should follow us at 999 Herd. And then we'll send you the location because we don't want any pigs there. And yeah, so at 999 Herd is the main collective page. We're also doing a hike the next day. Yeah, so if you want to go rave outside and come for a hike next morning, we're going to do that. So follow us there. And then through that page, you can find our radio where we do like weekly posts of local artists, just 999 Herd Radio. And then my Instagram is 999_ad. Just follow the nines and you'll find it all. So yeah, and thank you again for providing this space. It really means a lot. All the work that everyone does in this room right now is really beautiful and really inspiring. And yeah, I just want to like reiterate that like you're seen and appreciated from Toronto. And it's really a blessing and a privilege to like exist as the same time as everyone here. And I'm really excited to see what everyone keeps on creating. And I hope that one day we can all hang in person and have a little kiki, because I think that'll be lit. And yeah, when I come to Detroit next, I'll definitely hit you up. Japan, I don't know. I wish. I'm there mentally right now. I'm like, your head clips are so cute. But yeah, thank you.
I also really want to come to Detroit bad. I also came to Toronto to play a show, and honestly, it was really beautiful just because I hopped around to different places, and wow, literally one of the most diverse places in the world. You were not kidding when you said that. I was really shook. I was meeting Black people from all walks of life. But yeah, I just wanted to advertise again, Body Hacks Glitz fundraiser, June 29th and 30th. I am playing from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. I'm playing the sunrise set. The sunrise is between 5 and 5:30. This is my first time ever playing a sunrise set. And wow, I've been so busy that I've been getting all the music together, but it's still gonna give mixed bag and like whatever the moment gives me. And oh my gosh, I just want to be transparent that I'm a little nervous. So I want to see all my people there. Please come through if you can stay awake. And if you're not working, I would love to see you there. Come support, come dance, laugh, and cry with me and us. It'll be an amazing time. Just follow Body Hack on Instagram. That's _body hack, then _ again. And you'll find us. You'll find all the information. My Instagram again is Archangel DJ on, yes, Instagram, pretty sure Twitter too, but y'all don't need to see the Twitter. Just come to Instagram. On a personal note, I just released a little EP and I'll be releasing a longer LP at the end of June or the beginning of July, looking for people to write about it. I'm self-made. I don't have any other organizations besides the ones that I help organize. I am looking for an agent, but you have to be good. You have to be familiar with Black spaces, Black people, and all the things that I stand for. I would love people to help support me so I can continue to help support my community the best I can. So those are the things that I want to plug. Please hit me up if you can write about my project coming out. It's really good. And thank you to Slickdown. Thank you to the amazing panelists. This was really beautiful. I'm really glad that I got to celebrate Juneteenth in a place that's not, where I know the most Black people. That was really special. And I really wanted to feel connected to my peoples on a day like today. So I'm really appreciative that I can carve out some time to do that. And it makes me feel emotional and great. Those are one of the cool things about community that I was talking about earlier, spaces like this.
We want to thank everyone. It was such an amazing time, and also holding it down for the couple hours. And as well, follow all of our amazing panelists. And also, if you are a producer and you make edits and you are Black or a person of color, please submit your edits to Slickdown. We have an open call until June 23rd. We may extend it for a couple of days because, we're trying to release a really dynamic, really fun compilation of the baddest edits you can find. So plugging that here. And also anyone on the panelists, if y'all have the edits in your bag, we'll love those too. But thank you so much. And we're going to wave bye and thank you. Good night. Bye.